In May of 2008, two women are walking along the shoulder of the M6, one of England's busiest motorways. But when a patrol unit pulls over to check on them, it would begin a string of events that would leave behind one of the most disturbing psychological mysteries in recent history, and leave a trail of bodies along the way. Welcome back to Legends May Live, where we explore the strange, the mysterious, and the downright eerie. I'm Drew, and today we're diving into one of the most bizarre incidents ever caught on camera. A story of twins, delusion, and violence. This is the story of Ursula and Sabina Eriksson. On May 17th, 2008, Officers Paul Finlayson and Tracy Cope were doing their usual patrol. But today, they had a full back seat. Only this time it was voluntary. A BBC film crew was working with the CMPG for the TV program Motorway Cops. It had been a pretty slow day so far, which for the officers was a good thing. But soon they would get a call from dispatch to see about two women walking along the M6 motorway down the center of the reserve. Which the reserve is the sort of median that divides traffic going in one direction from traffic going the opposite way. It's not meant for pedestrians at all. So this seemed like a pretty simple call that they should be able to take care of within just a few minutes. When the officers arrived, they saw the twin sisters, Ursula and Sabina Eriksson, had darted out into traffic and were both hit head-on by cars. They had been unconscious but were beginning to wake up, and they had no signs of injury at this point. The officers turned on their lights, pulled over, and got out. And the film crew began setting up their shot while the officers approached the women. The officers began to question the two women, but right away something seemed off. They seemed erratic and were totally uncooperative. They avoided direct eye contact and just kept muttering under their breath. They seemed to be really annoyed with the officers' questions, but still, officers did their best to maintain a respectful and kind composure as they tried to calm the sisters. But without warning, Ursula just darted back out into the road, and immediately officers moved to grab her. But before anything could be done, she's hit by a 40-ton truck going about 56 miles per hour or 90 kilometers per hour. And as soon as this happens, Sabina takes off too. But much like Ursula, she's also hit head-on by a Volkswagen Polo. Now you might think that being hit by 40 tons of steel going nearly 60 miles per hour would be the end of the story for Ursula. But she was eerily tough. The impact was brutal. She hit the ground hard and her legs were crushed beneath the wheels before the truck came to a stop. Sabrina is also in much better shape than expected. She was thrown through the air by the collision and lie unconscious, but she appeared to have escaped life-threatening injuries, at least on the outside. Medics, which were already on the scene at this point, rushed to try to help Ursula, but she's screaming and clawing at them. She's yelling, "They're trying to steal our organs!" Like just completely ignoring her shattered legs as if they weren't even an issue. She spit and hissed at the people trying to save her, and she kept saying they were fake and that she knew who they were and they weren't real. In the meantime, Sabrina had regained consciousness. Police tried to restrain her, but she was just too strong. She punched one of them in the face and ran to the other side of the road across traffic, screaming for someone to help her sister because they're trying to take her organs. As paramedics and police worked to restrain Ursula, 6 officers caught up to Sabrina, and unbelievably, she was nearly overpowering them all until some more civilians jumped in to help. Sabrina was eventually sedated, and Ursula, immobilized with critical leg injuries, was taken to the hospital under armed guard. And so, finally the police got them in for treatment and evaluation, but still officers were just baffled. These weren't drug addicts, there were no signs of intoxication, and they would even test them, and the test came back clean. So what made 2 adult women launch themselves into speeding traffic, not once, but twice? And how did they survive it? And what exactly were they running from? Both sisters were questioned at the hospital. When she got there, Sabrina kept a calm demeanor, and for the most part, she answered their questions in a congenial manner. She even joked with the staff. After all this, officials made a decision on Sabrina, and because she had no prior criminal records, no signs of intoxication, and they really didn't think she was a danger to the public, they held her for one night for assaulting an officer, which was the one she had punched earlier before running into traffic, and she was simply let go after that. And that same day that she was let go, she was wandering the streets of Fenton, a suburb of Stoke-on-Trent. She was visibly disoriented. She was clutching her bag and asking strangers for direction. And that's when Glenn Hollinstead and his friend Peter Malloy, they came walking by, and Glenn had his dog with him, and Sabrina asked if she could pet it. As she pet the dog, she asked if there were any bed and breakfasts or hotels nearby. Glenn and Peter told her that there weren't any, and she really seemed disheartened after this, and Glenn felt sorry for her, so he offered her to stay with him for the night. She thanked him and walked back with Glenn and Peter, and as the three sat in the living room that evening, Sabrina was constantly going to look out the window nervously, and she did things like offer them cigarettes just to snatch them back, claiming they were poisoned. Still, Glenn shrugged it off. He thought maybe it was just anxiety. It's possible she had a breakdown earlier that she was working through, or something of that nature. He told Peter that he thought she just needed help, someone to talk to. The next day, May 18th, Glenn made lunch. He stepped outside to ask a neighbor about a local hospital, saying that he was helping a woman in distress. They chatted for a bit and then he went back inside. But just a few moments later, he came back outside saying, "She stabbed me." He was staggering and bleeding. She had stabbed him 5 times in the chest. There was no warning, no argument, or any real apparent reason. Glenn collapsed on the pavement, and he died right there, trying to help a woman that no one could explain. Sabina fled. CCTV footage would later capture her sprinting through the streets, clutching a roofing hammer. She stopped by the road and started smashing herself in the head with the hammer, and just screaming nonsense. A concerned motorist stopped to ask if she needed help, but his kindness was not returned. Sabina slammed the hammer down on his head. She hit him hard, then turned and ran again. And then, in a final desperate move, she jumped 40 feet off of a bridge onto another highway. As she landed, it broke both her ankles and fractured her skull. But still she survived yet another life-threatening experience. Paramedics were once again able to get her to the hospital, this time without so much of a fight. So one twin hospitalized, one man dead, one woman somehow still alive, but still a mystery. No drugs or alcohol and no motive. Just pure chaos and one deeply unsettling question. What was happening inside of Sabina Eriksson's mind? Sabina Eriksson was now behind bars, recovering from a shattered body and facing charges for brutal, senseless murder. But as investigators tried to untangle what happened, one thing became clear. Nothing about this case was normal. Sabina had no criminal record. She was a mother of 2 with no history of violence, and according to everyone who knew her, no signs of mental illness. So how does someone go from an ordinary life in Ireland to running into traffic to murdering strangers trying to help her, all in under 48 hours? Psychiatrists were brought in, and the 2 sisters were diagnosed with folie à deux, also known as shared psychosis. It's a rare psychological condition where 2 people share the same delusional belief, often feeding off of one another's paranoia until finally reality just collapses. In this case, the belief is that they were being watched, hunted, and targeted by dark forces. It was likely that Ursula, who first experienced the symptoms, and Sabina were just emotionally close and genetically identical, and that sort of absorbed the delusion. Separated after the motorway incident, Sabina's grip on reality began to spiral. Untethered from the twin who anchored her, she became volatile, unpredictable, and dangerous. During the trial, prosecutors acknowledged her actions were shocking, but they argued that she was not in control of her mind at the time, and the judge agreed. Sabina Eriksson was sentenced to just 5 years in prison for manslaughter with diminished responsibility. She served just over 2, including time already spent in custody, and was released in 2011. Since then, she's disappeared. She's been totally silent about it all. No interviews, no statements, and no public records. As for Ursula, once she recovered, she returned to the United States, where she had been living prior to the incident. Now their twin has explained what happened, and no mental health professionals have fully unraveled the timeline, because how could they? This was just an episode. It wasn't psychosis in isolation. It was something shared, a two-person storm that destroyed everything in its path. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who loves a bizarre tale. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep a lookout, and be careful who you welcome into your home.